welcome to the second review of the evening, and that is Puyo Puyo Champions. Um, Before we get into the review, we were asked by the PR rep to give a history on Puyo Puyo because, Puyo Puyo isn't a very well-known puzzle franchise over here in the West.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there have been attempts at it, but it's certainly not on the breath of everybody's tongue, like, say, Tetris or Dr. Mario or what have you.
It doesn't help that most of the early Puyo Puyo game releases in the U.S. were, reskinned as part of some other franchise.
Yep.
No, no, indeed. But so the history of Puyo Puyo is one of the history of Compile, the developer. Um, most of which is kind of outside of the like Puyo Puyo is their most popular series, but outside of that, they were known for shmups. One of the great developers of the heyday of shmups, developing such series as Xanic, Aleste, which has been released over here under a variety of names, from Power Drive to Musha, and so on and so forth. Gunhead, which we know as Blazing Lasers for the TurboGrafx. It's like, but Puyo Puyo not only is a great shift from a shoot 'em up, it's also a spin-off of another game series, the Mato Monogatari series, which is a series of first-person dungeon crawler RPGs, which was another thing that was pretty popular back in the 80s. Everybody ripping off wizardry in one form or another. Admittedly, I don't know too much about the Mato Monogatari series because, I don't have access to an MSX2. And it's largely irrelevant for the purposes of this retrospective, as it were.
But that's where characters like Arl originally came from, I suppose, probably.
Right, and I think that's where the actual Puyos came from. That they were the slime monster of the series, because when you're not ripping off wizardry, you're ripping off Dragon Quest.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Puyo Puyo, first released on the MSX2, and we never got the MSX2. So obviously that is not the first encounter the West had with Puyo Puyo.
Uh-huh.
No, the first one was both Kirby's Avalanche and Dr. Robotnik's Bean Machine. And if I'm recalling correctly, those were based off of Puyo Puyo 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, the differences between Puyo Puyo and Puyo Puyo 2, not exactly sure about. Once again, do not have an extensive history of playing Puyo Puyo games because most of them were in Japan. And
it looks like the second game added a significant amounts of detail to the mechanics for chaining block or Puyo removals, and also some things for the versus mode, because one thing that Puyo Puyo definitely has over Tetris is that it's significantly more developed, basically with a versus mode in mind. There's a lot more stuff about how chaining drops more things on the other person's dudes, and one of the things that was added in Puyo Puyo 2 is that if you get a chain while your opponent is about to drop stuff on you, I think it cancels that drop. Sorry, I'm not actually super knowledgeable about this, but that's what quick research seems to have suggested.
Yeah. Like I said, we can give a bit of a history lesson here, but it's we cannot get super intricate into the difference of Puyo Puyo Fever 2 and Puyo Puyo 7.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
But yeah, the biggest thing is that as a falling block puzzler, specifically as a falling
mm-hmm.
2, 3, or 4 piece block puzzler, whereas in Tetris it's always 4. You're trying to match colors, and it's a much bigger deal mechanically to try to set up combos, so you don't always want to just clear things right away. You want to set it up so that you clear a thing, and then when that clears, it brings other things into alignment, which clear even more stuff.
Right. And especially important for the is the Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. Not just because that's one of the first attempts to present this game series to the West, but this is also the collaboration between Compile and Sega. This is important because, fast forward, a few years and quite a few Puyo Puyo releases. Compile is having financial problems, and they end up selling the Puyo Puyo franchise to Sega. And Sega assigns the franchise to Sonic Team. Like, let's see. This happened in the, I believe, 1998. Although it would actually take a while for Sega to fully take over the franchise. Ironically, it didn't really take the franchise, to just Sega platforms. Because, keep in mind, we're talking about the Dreamcast era. That didn't last too long. Like, apparently the first Puyo Puyo game developed by Sonic Team was for the Game Boy Advance. Yeah. So, and make of that what you will. And here we reach the second attempt to bring Puyo Puyo to the Western masses. Under the odd name of Puyo Pop. Like, not exactly.
If you know the little bubbles with eyes on them, and then pop is pretty descriptive for what the gameplay actually involves.
Right. But something went odd along the way. I mean, so the version of Puyo Pop or Puyo Puyo we got for the 6th generation of consoles thereabouts was Puyo Pop Fever. And it's one of the it's the second game developed by Sonic Team. I suppose like what I'm getting at is the most notable thing about this is the releases. Like in North America, we only got this for the Nintendo platforms. Like we only got it for the GameCube. I think we got the Game Boy Advance version, and for some reason, Atlas published the Nintendo DS version. I guess call that foreshadowing. But in Europe, they got it for all the platforms. This also came out for the PlayStation 2, and I want to say Xbox, or it might have been the Dreamcast. Like I know there was a PlayStation 2 game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what's notable about this release, outside of the whole being developed for the by the Sonic Team. Let's see. Apparently, this is the last one to use sprites instead of 3D models.
Huh.
Like finding the intricate differences is a bit. Is the fever mode. Kind of makes sense given the name. Yeah.
And that's when you get enough combo build up, you go into a special mode where you, I believe, have the chance to make a lot of combos
Mm-hmm.
by like playing, like making one correct play, but if you mess up, it basically cancels the whole thing.
Hmm. And also worth noting is if you're going to get a version of this, it's probably the DS version because that supports up to 8 players. Not sure if that's download mode if you have to have a cart, but it is more players than the other versions, which are up to 4, which is pretty standard for the time. Like, but anyway, so after that attempt, Puyo Puyo goes pretty dormant until the release of Puyo Puyo Tetris.
Which caught on partially because it was on the Switch, and partially because it was a really cute, and partially because it
Well,
combined it with a game with a lot of name recognition.
well, here's the thing. It took a while for that game to come over. It was initially released for the Wii U and PlayStation 4. When it was initially released, Ubisoft had the Tetris license over here.
Yep.
Which is why it took until the Switch age for this thing to come out. And like the name suggests, Puyo Puyo Tetris is a combination of the two franchises. But we're going to let Petty Fan talk more about that in the actual review because he's actually played the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, anyway, and there was another Puyo Puyo release in between Tetris and Champions. That is Chronicle. I don't it doesn't even have a Wikipedia entry, so I don't know what exactly went into that one. So anyway, Puyo Puyo Champions. This is the Western name of the game. Its Japanese name is Puyo Puyo Esports.
Mm-hmm. And I think that one kind of gives the game away.
Yes. So, on that note, Petty Fan will be taking over to deliver his review of Champions.
Honestly, before we start, I'm not the best at Puyo Puyo. So there is that. But basically, Puyo Puyo Champions boils down to 2 modes. One with the Puyo Puyo 2 rule set, and one with the Fever rule set. There's also options to like track your replays, and like there are like frame by frame options, I think. Like you can get real granular with this.
Which is probably a good idea if you want to get good because it can let you see where you made good or bad moves and how you did or could have capitalized off that.
Mm-hmm. And then there is also online mode where not only can you battle other people online, you can also download their replays that they've put up there. So if you see something from like somebody who has a really high rank, you can also use that to study, oh, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is real great if you're like, if you want to get more into like, I guess, competitive Puyo Puyo. Because that
with
is...
the name, that's clearly what the focus is
yeah.
on.
But like, if you just want to play a puzzle game, ooh, honestly, I would almost say look at Puyo Puyo Tetris because you in Puyo Puyo Tetris you get the just puzzle fever mode, not just the, you have to earn it. It's just like a gauntlet of puzzles that you go through, as well as the Puyo Puyo 2 and Fever, build up to Fever mode in here, and you also have all the Tetris modes. But this one, Champions plays like a Puyo Puyo game. In fact, I think it's still using Puyo Puyo Tetris's engine. And then you basically...
It certainly looks about the same.
yeah.
And you have pretty much the same usual assortment of Puyo Puyo characters.
I know nothing about any of these.
I don't know much about any of them either, except from what I gathered from Tetris. But again, I think Arl she's kind of the main character, and I think she's actually the one who's originally from the Mado Monogatari series or whatever.
Yeah, and there's more of a story with Puyo Puyo Tetris that you can kind of glean who you guys are, who these guys are, if you pay attention. But
it doesn't really have a story mode.
What I'm doing right now is the only single player. You can either play Puyo Puyo 2 against the computer, or you can play Fever. So if you're looking for a whole bunch of single player content, again, I would suggest look at Tetris, Puyo Puyo Tetris, instead of Puyo Puyo Champions. There is online matchmaking, but I haven't been able to test that because that requires PS Plus. Because again, I'm on the PS4 version, so I have no idea if the netcode on that is any good. So that's one of those try at your own risk type of deals. And this is Tetris, or not Tetris. This is Puyo Puyo. Like, you know, by now you probably have a good idea if you'd like Puyo Puyo or not.
Yeah, the single player modes in this, like literally in this franchise, are pretty much limited to what you got here, which is playing against the computer in one of two modes. The only other single player mode you really get is sometimes there's like a puzzle mode where like
and that was Fever in Puyo Puyo Tetris, but I think it goes by other modes.
Yeah,
or
where
other
you have
names.
set exact layouts of Puyos, and you get like very specific drops that if you do it right, you'll like clear everything, and if you don't, you'll fail. So yeah, it's very much. I mean, it's just because that's the way that this particular puzzle thing works, is that it's really designed to be played against another person.
Yeah, competitively. Whether it's online or you have somebody on the couch next to you. Which the PS4 version does, of course, offer local multiplayer. If that's your thing. And then there's also ranked stuff online, I believe. And yeah, I believe you can adjust the like win conditions. Like the default is best of 3 or best of, or wait, no, you win 2. So yeah.
Yeah, best of 3.
And then like all you really have to do is just kind of survive while throwing garbage at your opponent. And as usual, if your blocks get trapped up at the X, you lose.
It's a lot of the mechanics are similar to Tetris, aside from the way you remove them and what the blocks are.
Yeah, like
and
you
again,
can actually,
and the fact that like Petty Fan's not great at Puyo, so he can't show off super amazing combo skills. That's another thing I actually liked about Puyo Puyo Tetris. I'm really not trying to undersell this game. It looks perfectly fine, but Puyo Puyo Tetris had a really detailed instructional mode.
Yes, this has
like
no
telling
instructional
you how to make
mode.
Combos and shit, and set up because there are ways to set up multi-step combos based on what you get.
Yeah, this has, other than the replay feature, this has no way to teach you how to play Puyo Puyo.
So they just turn you loose and say good luck.
Yeah.
So this looks like it's like for people who are a little bit more familiar with the puzzle style than Puyo Puyo Tetris is.
Like, I guess it's one of those, if you're decent at Puyo Puyo, this will help you get better. But if you're a novice, it won't help you at all. And then let's see if I can pull up the other rules. And there's also endurance mode if you want that. if you're kind of weird. And then there's also medium difficulty, comeback assist, which is kind of like rubber banding. Win count, you can go all the way up to like, where does this cap out? 99, I'm thinking? Yeah.
Yeah, set count and win. Which
Mhm.
set count is, I think, how long you play until,
Yeah.
and win count is how many. I don't know. Huh.
Yeah, you can
Oh
have
yeah.
100 wins and 100 sets. You can turn quick draw up on and off. And
I think
there's
comeback assist is specifically a thing where it changes like the balancing of how many junk Puyos you get and send, but I'm not sure.
and you also get the option of different backgrounds, different looks for your Poyos. Background music, sound effects. There's a handicap setting where you can basically change the algorithm type thing where it'll give you harder, but if you can get through it, you can get insane combos where mild and sweet are kind of the opposite. And then there's like really granular settings. Like you can get kind of insane with this. Like again, it can be overwhelming if you don't know what you're doing.
So yeah, if you got into Puyo Puyo through Puyo Puyo Tetris, which if you're in the Western audience, that's the most likely thing, unless you like remember way back when you enjoyed Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine or Kirby's Avalanche.
And then
This
somehow decide to look and see that was part of the Puyo Puyo series.
Yeah, this is another game in the series that you can try and the different characters do different things.
That's in frenzy mode. I was just about to show that.
Yeah. But yeah, if you got into it through this is another game that you can continue playing on. This one is a little bit more oriented towards the competitive stuff if you want to play with other people.
And then you can see how it has like the dots it shows above their name is kind of the pattern of drops they'll get. So you'll get for this
There are four kinds of drops basically. There's, or maybe a little more. There's Puyos that are two different ones, or usually different ones. The ovals are when it drops one tooth, a double thing that's the same color on both things. The one where there's a horizontal oval with a dot above one half of it is when it drops an oval, and then another one, and then the big circles are when it drops a 2x2 that's all the same color, and there's also, it looks like, 3L, like where it drops three that are different colors. Yeah. And they can actually, I think, be the same color when they can be different colors, but they usually aren't. I'm not sure about that though. So yeah, the different characters actually suggest different play styles.
Yeah. It's kind of like, this seems like a system.
Arl is a pretty good beginner because she mostly goes with separate things and small chains, which is easier to make.
And then we have, Carbuncle here, which is basically big chains or nothing.
And some of them, I think, can reverse fever mode when your opponent gets it, but I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I didn't mess with that much either, so... Because I also rarely got fever mode, so... And...
Yeah, you have to get enough combos to get a fever mode.
And then in fever mode, it's kind of like regular, only you're building up combos on the bar next under your what is that? I know there's a term for the preview. If you can fill that up, you'll go into fever mode, which you can put down some insane combos.
Yeah, I believe it wipes your map.
It
to
does
start with,
not in
and then it
this
just
version. Your map will stay the same, but you
it
can
just
use
gives
it
you
to
specific
cancel.
things.
Yeah. And you can use it to throw a massive amount of junk at your opponent. But I believe some versions did have the thing where fever would clear your board. And yeah, this is really the game. So I guess price is, I believe it was $10 if I'm remembering right, Adam.
Yes.
Yep.
Is that on all platforms? Because this is on like everything.
Yeah.
It is on PC, PlayStation 4, Switch. I think it's on the Xbox One.
Site says it is on the Xbox One.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's on every major platform of choice.
And yeah, it does look like it's $9.99 everywhere.
Yeah. And you know, I would not expect major differences between like, the Switch version and the other versions because, look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's crossplay of any particular variety.
I haven't seen anything mentioned about crossplay being an option. So I guess that's something.
I'm looking at the Steam page and I don't see anything about crossplay here. It would be mentioned.
Yeah.
It does also have a league, apparently.
Yeah.
Like you can do free play or like league play, which is where you get rankings, I assume.
Yeah. And I guess for $10, another one where it really depends. How big of a Puyo Puyo fan are you?
Yeah, and Tetris was more than significantly more than that. So
Yeah, I think Tetris was $20 at time of recording, but it also goes on sale quite often. Like I got my copy for like $7.50.
So yeah, if you don't know much about Puyo and you're not super into puzzle stuff, see what just happened for you. It set up a combo thingy for when you hit fever. Anyway, so yeah, if you think this kind of puzzle looks good for you, you can go for this if you want something cheap. But Tetris is probably a better entry place if you're not super familiar with it.
Yeah, Puyo Puyo Tetris is definitely a better entry point.
Because Puyo Puyo Tetris literally has step-by-step instructions of good ways to set up combos and stuff.
Where this one is just, here, you like Puyo Puyo, we'll give you Puyo Puyo.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's just
like, this is alright, but again, I really suck at Puyo Puyo. Like, if I ever get better at it, I might revisit this. But that might take a while. But yeah, I think that's it for this one.
All right then. Be sure to tune in after the break as we attempt to review Abstract Health.